We need a corporate revolution now, or maybe even yesterday, because current ways of dealing with so much work stress and continuous change are just not sustainable. To survive and thrive, work and workplaces, as we have always known, has got to change, and soon. Hi, everyone. Welcome to my podcast, A Corporate Revolution, where we learn from leaders and teams thriving in corporate chaos. My name is Sabrina Sauja. I'm a certified leadership coach and team consultant. Are you a new manager or a manager in transition? If so, this episode might be really helpful to you. So, what are the first three things or actions you can take as a leader in transition? And these first three things can be done within the first 30 days or so. First of all, let's talk about what I mean when I say a new leader or a leader in transition. This can be new leaders, meaning they used to have individual contributor IC roles previously, and this is their first role managing other people. But when I say leaders in transition, I also mean leaders who have been leading for a while, but they're in a new organization or a new team or even a new type of role. What I mean by that is the jump from a director to a VP and what's expected in the VP role is quite different. So that leader I would categorize as a leader in transition. The other type of leader in transition that I see quite a bit is a leader promoted from the team itself. So what that means is the people who this leader is managing at this time used to be their coworker. So that can get very hairy very soon as well. And I've seen this happen with leaders I've worked with. So all of these types of leaders fall into this category of leaders in transition in my definition. So if you are any of these types of leaders, listen up. So the first three actions you need to take if you're a leader in transition. The first one is to really reflect on your leadership style and have a meeting with your new team and explain what that style is and why you lead the way you do. This is really, really important because if you don't control the narrative of your leadership style, your team will try to connect the dot themselves and they may or may not be correct, or they may make assumptions about your style or why you want certain things done a certain way. So this is really important as a leader in transition to take control of how your team sees your leadership. And when you explain that, it'll be really important to talk about your values and how they connect to your leadership style as well. For example, a client of mine took over a team, and that team was used to a very different kind of leadership style. So the new leader was more hands on, wanted to coach his team, wanted to hold them accountable, and had big plans and goals for the team. But the previous leader the team had, that leader was more hands off and sometimes not really present as well. So the team was used to doing things very differently before this new leader took on. So in that instance, it'll really help the team also if you can lay your leadership style out for everyone as a way to help the team in their transition as well. So, this is why it's really, really important to do. That's the first thing to do in the first 30 days. The second thing is to set up a 1 hour or 1.5 hour meeting with the team to talk about the team vision, values, guidelines, or best practices. This can be combined with the conversation about your leadership style as well. But these things, the vision, values, best practices, and guidelines, are really important because they need to also get input, direct input from your team. You will lay it out for the team, but the team will also have input. It's very much a dialogue and a collective collaboration to come up with these things. Some of these things, like the vision, might be tied to the organization's vision, or you could take the organizational vision but change it up or tweak it as needed for your team. This will also help the team come together, voice any of their concerns, and get clear on how they all want to work going forward. It's like having a new contract, a kind of pseudo working contract with the team. But it's really, again, it's really important to listen to them and make sure that their inputs are also reflected in the outcome of this exercise. So that's the second thing. The third thing is a lot of leaders already do this, but I'm recommending something a little bit more deeper or an extension of what leaders already do when they're in transition. Most leaders take the time to meet with the team members individually just to get to know them inside and outside of work and build rapport. The extra step I would recommend is when you get to know your team members, as you listen to the way they talk about work or even their hobbies, their family, try to pull out what their values are. So, values are things that are really important for people to express and to feel more fulfilled. We need to be able to express our values and live into them. When you listen to your individual team members, try to pull out these values because that gives you a really good lens to understand this individual and why they do things the way they do it. I'll give you a good example. I see this frequently with my clients and in other situations as well. The value of collaboration generally hits against or is generally in conflict with the value of efficiency. So I see coworkers where one person really likes to collaborate, has a need for connection, it's really important to them. But the other person just wants to get to the results as quickly as possible, not waste time. On their own, both values are important to an organization. We need to collaborate as well as be efficient. But these two people might get into conflict. And I've seen them get into conflict as well. So, therefore, it's really important to understand what people's values are so you know where they're coming from. A lot of the workshops I do, we have people get into pairs and do this values mining exercise on each other. Generally, I have them talk about a peak experience. So, an experience where they were extremely engaged, felt fully alive. So one person would talk about that, and the other person would listen, ask questions, ask about how they felt in that experience, what was important about that experience, and then pull out the values that they are hearing. So that's something you can try out, or you can just, even if you don't want to talk about a peak experience, just listening to how they talk about work, you will be able to pull out their values. A quick thing on that, I used to work in tech uh, before I became a coach. The way I found connection to my work was through the stakeholders, I was helping through the systems. So if somebody asks me about the work, I will talk about the stakeholders and how much time we are saving for them and how happy they are, things like that. That was my angle to the work I did. That's how I would speak about it. But if you spoke to someone else on the team, and I'm thinking of one person when I say this, he would really get excited about the technology, the innovation, how quickly things happen. So that's very much a different value. That's a value of innovation, efficiency, doing new things, creativity, a love for technology. But we both did the same work, but we would talk about it very differently. So this would give you a lot of insight into what's important to them, but also this is key in knowing how to motivate each team member, because every team member needs different things to get motivated. So those are the three things I wanted to share when that you can do when you're a leader in transition. There's one other thing one of my clients recently mentioned, and I think it's a brilliant idea. I want to add it as a bonus point here. This client has a practice where when he wants to get real, direct, authentic, transparent feedback from the team, what he would do is he would get everyone to a meeting room and invite them to talk about their challenges with the systems, the team, even the leader. So he would set the stage for what the discussion needs to be on, and then he would leave. So he would just have the team discuss and he would leave. So by the end of the meeting, they would create a list of challenges or things the team needed to solve collectively. So the leader wouldn't know who exactly said X or Y. So somebody appointed in the team, or they would collectively take that list to the leader and get their input as well. So I thought this was a really good way, not just to get real feedback, but also to have the team collaborate better and connect better. Because when they get together and discuss these things, they are going to feel more like they're in the same team. And for the leader, this gives really good feedback on what needs to change. This doesn't necessarily have to be done as you're transitioning, although it is a good time to do it as you take on a new role. So you hear from the team what's not being working so far. On the other hand, this can also be done at different points during the year, maybe quarterly or biannually, as a way to get more direct feedback. As you get to know the team, as they get to know you and form certain opinions, or they come across certain challenges, this is a really good check-in point. So I wanted to throw that in there as well. So again, just to summarize, the 3 4 things you can do in your first 30 days of transition as a leader. One, have a gathering or a meeting to explain your leadership style, and why you do things the way you do and why you expect certain things the way you do as well. The second thing is to collectively create, tweak, or redesign or reinforce the team vision, values, and best practices. And again, this is just for the team you are leading. The third thing is to meet with team members individually, which most leaders already do, but go deeper and try to pull out their values as a way to deeply get to know your team and also start building trust from the beginning. And the last action is to give the team members the opportunity to provide real feedback and build off of each other's ideas on how they want to solve the challenges without the leader being present, as a way to again build trust and set the right tone as you start off on this role. As someone who has been in the corporate world and has a good pulse, because I work with a lot of corporate leaders and professionals, I know as you're listening to these four actions, you might feel like there's so much to do and there's so much knowledge to soak up, people to meet, stakeholders to meet, things to do during a leadership transition. That is true. However, if you don't take time to do some of these things, it will most probably backfire in the long run. So, if you want to take the long term view and do what's most sustainable, also do a few things that are going to save you more time in the next 5, 6 years, these actions will really help. If you want to prioritize them, though, the priority I think will be number one. So, explaining your leadership style, I think, is one of the first things to, and then meeting people individually, understanding their values perhaps the second priority if I were to pick some priorities. And then the third thing will be to come up with the team values, vision, and best practices. Because once you have those individual conversations and know what individual values are, that might also actually help with the team values conversation. And then the last action we discussed about getting real feedback can come a little later. So I hope that helps because I know you are all busy. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and took away something you can easily implement because that is the goal here. Please subscribe and let us know if you have any questions or if you have additional tips and strategies so we can all learn from each other and ignite this corporate change or revolution together.